and welcome to Slow Pit Stop, the international Formula One podcast by fans for fans all around the world. As sometimes I'm joined by my co-host Mohammed. Say hi, Mohammed.
Sometimes. It's been a long time since I didn't join you on one of these.
Have I done shows without you? Because I usually say it as always.
Can't watch, won't watch. Famously, you did without me.
Oh yes,
Because I wouldn't watch. I was the won't watch. You were the can't watch.
Yes. Yeah. No, maybe I should start doing that again. Keep you on your toes. Just start doing some episodes without you. Keep you keen. I'll treat you like a Red Bull driver. You know what Christian Horner said? At the end of the day, it's a performance-based sport.
That reminds me actually of Never mind, I won't say it. It's too embarrassing. Continue.
That's a fun way to start. So today, we made a bullet point list of things we want to talk about. Obviously, it's been the Mexican Grand Prix. Congratulations to Sunny Hayes for winning.
After they pointed out on Twitter that you can't celebrate with your gloves still on, and then I realized every single time a driver celebrates, they no longer wear their gloves. It's because they have to take it off to take their helmet off.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is so bad. How did they not catch that? And how did Lewis not screen this script beforehand?
Because there's not a script thing, is it? It doesn't say in the script keep gloves on while taking helmet off.
No, he's a producer to advise them on this kind of stuff. I don't know.
No, he will have just been like, get out the car, run around, celebrate.
Okay, but did you see him running around?
Make sure you take your gloves off.
Why did it look so bad? He really phoned home that celebration.
I've not got the skills. But you know the way he's just running around in between people? The way he's holding the flag is more like he's holding a dupatta. I wanted to put some Bollywood music over that and just have him running around with a Bollywood song in the background.
Oh my god. It's so cringe. I hope it's just part of a montage and this isn't a pivotal scene in the movie.
How do you feel about this movie?
I was initially really excited about it because it seemed like it was going to be good, but after Formula One has completely taken over, it feels like it's going to suck. But initially I thought, before they came in, I thought, oh, this actually has the potential to be a really good movie. If the script is really good, it could be like Ford versus Ferrari. But anytime a studio gets too involved, the movie just falls apart. And I think Formula One is the studio here. And
Yeah, I think so. I think, here's my thoughts. One, Brad Pitt. Obviously an all-round good guy. Google it. He's clearly just such a nice person. Number two, like you said, I thought initially I was really interested in this. And the whole story of, actually, this is a team at the back of the grid. And I thought that the climax of the film was going to be they score a point. They finished P9. And because they wanted it to be authentic. The fact that he's running around winning a race, I don't know how that's happened. Will they say he got a P3 the way, what's his face? George Russell got a podium in the Williams in the race that wasn't a race. They just drove around 2 parade laps.
Yeah.
Are they going to do something like that? Is that how they maintain authenticity? But in the trailer, they were what was it? The other teams are fast in the straight, but we can get them in the corners. And it's the entire challenge of Formula One.
He said in the turns.
The entire challenge of Formula One is to try and go faster in the turns. The turns, God. So, but from a technical perspective, I'm fascinated by this film. The way they've shot a film alongside real races, the way they've CGI'd over Gasly's car, so that's his car. Yeah. From a purely technical perspective, I'm really fascinated by how this film has been made. And I want to see it from that point of view. The rest of it, I don't know. Yeah.
Well, that's Jerry Bruckheimer's that's his skill. Is it Jerry Bruckheimer? Whatever, the guy who made Top Gun.
I don't know. I've not looked into it.
It's the filming technique is what he's so good at. And so that's what's exciting about this movie.
Top Gun. I really, really enjoyed Top Gun, the new one. Yeah. Not because the story was anything amazing. It was just because you can tell they're actually in those planes.
Yeah.
And you can see the shadows on the ground and all of that stuff, and you're like, wow, this is I saw it in the cinema and I was like, this is... But I would never watch it again on the TV. I'm not desperate to go see that story again.
Yeah.
But from a technical side, I was like, this is really cool.
That's the only reason I'll watch it too. I just want to see what comes of this whole thing. I mean, Verstappen is in the trailer because he's standing there for the national anthem of some country, and Sonny Hayes is there. Yeah. And I have to know how Sonny Hayes and Justin Pearson, or whatever the other guy's name is, Joshua Pearson, how are they going to coexist in a world where Verstappen is winning everything. I just need to know. I have to know how they pull it off. So, yeah.
But yeah, so what did we want to talk about? Sunny Hayes winning.
We had a race.
Yuki Tsunoda and his crash.
Wait, before we get into that, let's just get straight to the meat of the meal. There's a penalty or something. Somebody got a penalty. Who got the penalty?
So it went to the penalty to West Ham, but Man U were arguing it's actually a handball. But in the end, it allowed West Ham to win, and Ten Hag has lost his job now. Is that the podcast that we do?
That's actually what we were talking about before we hit record.
Yeah.
Amazingly. Yeah. And I was going to reveal to the world that my new Premier League team is actually West Ham, and they just won a game.
Nice.
So.
So let's get into the whole Verstappen-Norris situation. Anybody that's listening to this, also, remember last episode? I said, we've got listeners all over the place, North America, Europe, Africa.
Yeah, how does it go?
India, Pakistan,
mileage?
Australia.
Meterage?
Oh yeah, no one's got back to me on that yet. Or maybe they have, but Twitter is awful, so I've stopped going on the Slow Pit Stop Twitter page. Okay. So maybe someone has gotten back to us, but I've just not looked at it. I'll look at it later today. The thing, remember last time I said nobody in South America listens to us? And then I thought about it, and I was like, oh yeah, everywhere that listens to us has a high proportion of English speakers. So that's why, South America, clearly people can speak English, but it's not as common as the other places because of Europe, hashtag colonialism. So what was I saying?
Something about
Verstappen and his penalties. 20 seconds. Go. Tell me about these penalties.
Okay, so I guess I'll just take it from the start, right? We have this whole thing last week about is Verstappen allowed to dive bomb, and is he allowed to push people off the track, and generally, is he allowed to drive the way he's driven his entire career, was the question. And everyone got really angry because this time a white British person was threatened as opposed to a black British person who was threatened in the past. His fans were pretty vocal, and the FIA had a meeting, and 19 of 20 drivers said, yeah, let's change the rules, and one driver said he won't, and I guess that was it for that. But I have a feeling that at the end of that...
Who do you think is the one driver?
It's 100% Lewis Hamilton. Why would he want the rules changed?
But could you imagine if it randomly was Colapinto or Yuki or someone? Colapinto is amazing, but he is very chaotic. Do you know who he would be from a TV show?
Who would he be?
Do you know who Colapinto reminds me of?
No, who?
No, Creed. Yeah, Creed fits. I was gonna say, remember Parks and Rec? April.
Yeah.
If April was a Formula One driver, she'd be Colapinto.
They all agree, and Colapinto's like, "Well, I don't agree. I don't think we should change the rules."
And they're like, "You don't even have a seat for next year, so why are you changing it this year? If I'm not going to be here next year, you do that rule next year."
Yes. Oh, that's so funny. Okay, but I'm sure they must have had some kind of agreement. They must have had some kind of agreement with Max. Hey, listen, you put you off the hook this time. Just don't do it again for at least one race. And then, of course, Max goes and the next race, he's like, yeah, I'm gonna just drive the way I've driven my entire career. So there was two instances, right? There was one he pushed Norris off, and then in the following lap, when it looked like Norris was maybe gonna give the position back, that's when he left the track and got an advantage and overtook Norris off the track or something. And because it had happened so soon, everybody's like, well, is there going to be a penalty? And then, apparently it was worth 2 10-second penalties, which was pretty strong. And wild. Then Verstappen got the nice outstanding penalty. Outstanding penalty. It felt like, Mortal Kombat, when you do outstanding penalty. 20 seconds. And then that pushed him all the way to only 8 seconds ahead of Perez. So,
right, we'll get to Perez, but the penalties. The first bit of contact where he nudged, because I thought the 10-second penalty was for the second one, where he dive bombed on the inside of Norris and pushed him off track. The first one I thought would be racing incident at most 5 seconds. I thought the smart thing to do would have been give the position back. But the fact that he got 2 10-second penalties seems harsh. Now, you saw Sainz got ahead of Verstappen, gave the position back, and then overtook later, right?
Yeah, I forgot that
And I was
happened in
like,
the same race, but yeah, he did.
yeah. But I was like, why is Verstappen not just giving the place back? It would just be so much simpler, you
Yeah.
know? And actually, I think this shows, as you know, in the grey areas of the rule it might be, it just shows the genius of Verstappen. Like, I know we're not a Max Verstappen podcast, but I'm going there. You know, everyone's like, oh, he's just like Senna. The reason people say that is because Senna did everything. You could look at any driver on the grid and be like, Alonso, just like Senna that one time. Hamilton, just like Senna that one time. Jensen, just like Senna that one time, right? So Senna did everything. So everyone, Mohammed, you present this podcast just like Senna would. But you know, that sort of ruthlessness and that, you know, they talk about the capacity to read the whole race, like Alonso and Hamilton. They're not just driving their own car; they're thinking about the whole race. And Verstappen's showing that he's doing that because he went, even if I get a penalty, I don't have the pace to keep fighting with the McLarens. So he sat in front of Lando and was like, I'll get a penalty, but I'm gonna let Ferrari go off ahead into the distance. And you know, and like Lando did a good job later in the race of catching up to them. He was right behind Carlos. Now imagine he didn't have that entire first stint stuck behind Verstappen. So Verstappen went, I will take a penalty, no problem. 20 seconds, whatever, fine. But I'm gonna screw your race up first.
Did it really slow Verstappen Norris down? I mean,
yeah,
he
100%.
caught them right in the end when
100%.
their tires were starting to go off and they were overheating. There for so long he was 8 seconds behind Lando. Like for so long. He was at 8 seconds
Who?
behind Norris, behind Leclerc. He was 8 seconds
Yeah.
behind Leclerc for so much of the race. Only at the very end did he, when the tires started going off and stuff, did he actually have the pace to come challenge the Ferraris. I don't believe that. And I don't believe that.
I think so. I think, but like he was stuck behind Verstappen for a long time, right?
But why was he stuck behind Verstappen? Why can't the McLaren get ahead of Red Bull if he's that fast?
Well, yeah, but like Mexico's not the easiest place to overtake.
Yeah.
As you saw, lots of people. Look, Piastri was stuck. He didn't get ahead of the Hasses. The Hasses managed to get into a position and then hold that position for the whole race, right?
That's true.
It's a slightly outlying track.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, you know, even if Verstappen's was wrong about the calculation, the fact that he's thinking like that shows a whole, you know, he's playing a different game to what Lando Norris is playing.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I mean, ultimately, he wants to win the championship, and that just means limiting the number of points that Norris can take, you know?
Yeah. So I think that was very clever by Verstappen. There's lots of talks about how do we rewrite the rules? How do we stop Verstappen doing his inside roll on the brakes?
Yeah.
There's lots of funny quotes from Lewis Hamilton. And I think, because they do this before, they're like, you have to give the position back.
Yeah.
And I remember, where was it? It was years ago. It was like in Monaco. I think it was one of these moments where I thought, oh, Rosberg is good. It was like Felipe Massa had to give a position back to someone and Rosberg snuck in behind him or something. I can't remember the details. But I think the penalty here would not have been to give Verstappen 20 seconds. It would have been to say, you need to let Norris back in front of you and you get a 5-second penalty or something.
Yeah. So I like that. Continue.
Yeah.
Because
because I think that's fairer to what happened to Norris in that situation.
Yeah, it's not always fair, like I said last week.
No, 100%.
With the 5-second thing. I will say that I don't agree either with the 10 seconds times 2. It kind of doesn't make sense, actually, if you think about it, because all the precedent we have is if you...
As it came up, me and you did laugh. We're sat here being like,
haters to our blood. We are somehow...
I don't agree. But I had a great time watching that race. The first 10-second penalty, and then the second one, and I was like, this is brilliant. I texted you, and I was like, imagine they added a second 10-second onto this, because they've not even talked about the second incident yet. They've just talked about the first one, which I barely registered. Imagine they gave him 20 seconds, and I thought, no, they never would. They never ever would do that. And then it came up, and I was like, incredible. What was
Absolute
it? Total cinema.
Total cinema. So I think it should have been 10 and 5. I think 10 seconds for for overtaking and getting an advantage, even though typically that's 5. But I would have said 10 for that, and then 5 for pushing your opponent off the track. Switch it. 10 seconds for pushing your opponent off the track. That's usually the more strict one because that can cause an accident. And then 5 seconds for overtaking over the track because that's usually what it is. The 10 and 10 I thought didn't really make sense, especially since in that same race they didn't punish Perez. Although really like the whole weekend punished Perez, but they didn't punish him for doing very similar things with Lawson. So that was kind of weird. I think the other thing I've seen people talk about
comes down to bizarre little technicalities. Who was ahead where?
Yeah.
Where was the front wing? Where was the mirror?
That's so
Where
lame.
was Jupiter at that exact moment in time? The rules are confusing, right? We've said this all the time. Like when you watch football, and apart from that West Ham penalty, when you see something happen, you can go,
football.
That's a yellow, that's a red card, that's a foul, that's offside. Like, we know what's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
Or like in a tennis match. You know, they show that bird's eye view, the ball lands next to the line. All of us can go, that's in, that's out, that's a point, that's not a point.
Yeah.
In Formula One, like, yes, you know, they produce these huge documents because this was here and this was there, and you kind of go, well, okay, I guess this follows some sort of logic that makes sense to someone. But because it's just, like, it's not clear to the fans straight away, and I think they need to change that. And I think that's why, you know, if you, like, take someone off the track, being told to give it back is a penalty that just makes sense to everybody.
Try this on for size. What about a 10-second stop and go?
So they can do that, but that's like a very extreme punishment. And again, if you're Zach Brown... But
instead of 20 seconds...
Fine, but if you're Zach Brown, would you rather Verstappen have a 10-second stop and go, or that he lets your guy back in front so that he can try and chase the Ferraris and try and be in a better position by the end of the race?
Stop and go. I want my championship rival to be so far behind that he's out of the points.
What is stop and go? How long? Let's Google. How long does it take to serve a stop and go?
Because it's 10 seconds plus it's the pit stop, so that's going to be about 30 seconds. That's actually more harsh than 20.
Driver's hours, EU rules. Can be extended to 10 hours twice a week. What is this? How and when to use a cyclovir? Use the cream for at least 4 days. What is happening?
Okay, I don't know what you're doing, but I'm going to read this.
Can affect bus routes.
Stop and box.
I said, how long does it take to...
Stop and box for 10 seconds. So it takes the time of the pit stop, which is roughly 15 to 20 seconds, plus the additional 10 seconds in there, and you're not allowed to work on the car. So you lose a pit stop, right? Because you have to go back and pit stop again, plus 10 seconds. So that's actually
you have
pretty
to serve
severe.
It within 3 laps or something?
Yeah. That's actually pretty
that's
harsh.
Probably fair, because that lets the person by. Because if you have to serve it within 3 laps, that lets the person by.
They should have just done it. It would have been so funny. The race was already kind of funny, though.
Yeah. So, should we get into the real comedy of the race? Verstappen is going to
win the championship, you guys. He's going to win. Let us have these moments where we get to point and laugh.
Yeah. But let's get into the real tragedy comedy of the weekend, which was Perez.
Ooh.
So, he was supposed to be fired earlier in the year.
Yeah.
And replaced by Daniel Ricciardo. For some reason, that didn't happen. That reason rhymes with honey and starts with an M. And the whole idea was, okay, we'll keep him on till at least Mexico, because he brings in huge amounts of money to the team through advertising, sponsorship, etc. And then there was all these rumors, okay, Lawson did really well last weekend. We might just tell Perez to announce his retirement. But Red Bull, like the way they treated Daniel Ricciardo, clearly they're not going to let anyone retire or go out gracefully. So he was out in Q1, failed to get through to Q2. He missed his start box, and it was hilarious because they were like, "You've been given a 5-second penalty for what? You like your start or whatever." And he was like, "My start was great."
No, he said like you had for the false start. He's like, "Nope, it was a great start."
Yeah. It's just so painful. I feel so bad for the guy, but it's like, It is funny.
It's funny because like they said for a false start, and he went, "Nope, it was a great."
Nope,
It's
it
very
was great.
Trump energy right there. Like,
Yeah.
it's the greatest
And then he
stop. It's
crashed.
no one has ever started. It was the greatest start.
Did Trump come and shake what's his face's hand this year?
Norris, yeah, in Miami, yeah.
Oh God, Ferrari need
Zach
to win the
Brown.
constructors. The orange man and the orange car need to be punished for that interaction. Anyway, so then Perez crashed into Liam Lawson.
Yeah.
And like started shouting about Lawson. And then he was in last place. And then they put soft tires on him to get the fastest lap, which he failed to achieve.
Yeah, he had a hole in the side of his car.
I know.
He's not gonna.
I
Why did he do that?
I don't know. But just the whole thing was just so painful. And then he finished in last place, and you're like, the entire unraveling of Red Bull is really interesting. So they've lost Wheatley, they've lost Adrian Newey, Christian Horner. He looks like he's aged 10 years in the last year. Like, a human being cannot age that quickly in such a short period of time. What has happened is he stopped going for his Botox, he stopped wearing makeup, he stopped dyeing his hair. Like, he is stressed out.
He dyed
He is
his hair.
unraveling. Well, he looks very old very quickly. And then, like, Verstappen is unraveling and not able to win a race anymore. But, like, still, like, all things considered, putting in good performances, but just not able to win. And I don't think he will win by the end of the year. And then Perez, whatever is happening to Perez, like, I don't think Perez is disintegrating in isolation. That entire team is spiraling. And it's just fascinating to watch how quickly it happened compared to how dominant they were at the start of this year.
To me, that's the crazy part, is how quickly it happened, given how dominant they were in the beginning. Like, nobody, if I had told you in the beginning of the year, after race 1, that not only are Red Bull not going to win the Constructors, they're going to finish 3rd in the Constructors, you wouldn't have believed me. Like, that's crazy. That's crazy collapsed.
Yeah.
And, it's just so much happening. I almost don't believe it. They're going to be back next year. Verstappen's going to win everything.
But, so Perez, if you're his manager, what do you do?
I mean, he needed to have been pulled out a while ago, but if I'm his manager, I'm keeping him in for as long as possible because that's his career, right? Like, he's a Formula 1 driver, but it's tough for him because things never really went his way at Red Bull. I mean, they did a little bit in 21, played rear gunner pretty well. 22, he had more race wins, but really the collapse happened as that car development continued from 2022, and like, he should have just been pulled last year. The fact that he got another seat this year was pretty surprising in and of itself. And then, as the championship battle heated up and they realized, it would have been very Red Bull of them to dump Perez and bring somebody else on. And it's just the fact that I don't know how much money you need to present Red Bull with to get him to stay, because they already have so much money. But that's really what it was, and that's why he stayed on. And he's not going to keep his seat for next year. And in some ways, it's quite sad because you want these people to have good, like, going away parties. Like the way Mercedes said goodbye to Valtteri Bottas when he left, it was like a gala. It was so beautiful, the lights and the winter and the fireworks. They did such a good job, even though Bottas wasn't like like on top of his game at that time. Arguably he lost Mercedes their championship. But they still gave him and Perez is not going to get a great goodbye because he's leaving on such bad form that everybody just wants him gone at this point.
I think the thing about the Red Bull meat grinder is, like you said, it doesn't give people goodbyes. And I think this is one of the brutal things of sport, especially Formula 1, is that people often don't end on a high. They sort of whimper out. Yeah. I think Rosberg was clever to just be like, I'm champion now, I'm leaving. But like the way Ricciardo was just like so unceremoniously dumped. A lot of other people. I'm trying to think of people that have disappeared from Formula 1 recently.
Well, I'll tell you the one I think about, Kvyat. When he left, the way I found out he lost his seat is I went onto YouTube and it said a highlight reel of Kvyat's top 10 moments, and I was like, oh, they've only done that because my man has lost his seat.
Yeah. So and when you look back at people's careers, you're always like, oh, well, there was all those years where they did well, and then there was 2-3 years.
Mm.
Or you look at someone like Raikkonen, and you wonder. But I think Raikkonen's legacy is bigger than just his driving performance, though. Like, clearly, Raikkonen was a better driver in the first half of his career rather than the second. But the way he got to have that one race win at Ferrari before he left, and I worry about signs that, he's had a good year at Ferrari, and then he has a couple of average years at Williams where he can't show what he's capable of and then just disappears. Now, you can imagine that being a situation, unfairly, I think, but you can imagine a situation where he just fades out. And like Gasly, he did really well in AlphaTauri. He won that race. He went to Alpine. It was supposed to be the start of something big. And you can imagine a situation where, 2-3 years from now, Alpine replace him, and the last part of his career has just been a little bit anonymous. And one thing as a Lewis fan, what I want for Lewis from Ferrari, let's imagine Lewis goes there for 2 years. I want him to win races. Obviously, I want him to win the championship, but I'll be satisfied even if he doesn't, because if he wins races across the next couple of years and goes, he can say, you know what, I won races from all the way through my career. Yes, there was the 2 years where he didn't win, but across all the different types of formula, like we talk about this, Daniel Ricciardo struggled with the new formula. When it switched over in 2014, Vettel struggled with that. But drivers like Alonso and Lewis, whatever the formula was, they were right up there performance-wise. You look at how Alonso drove last year. So the 2007-8 formula, the 2009 onwards formula, 2014 rule change, 2017 rule change, and then 22, 23 Lewis didn't win, but he's won this year. Every iteration of the formula, Lewis has won in that category. So I feel like if he keeps having more wins, he'll go out and be like, I was good throughout.
Yeah.
And I feel Perez is being denied that, and he's going out with like reputational damage.
Maybe, at least for now. People, when they look back, hopefully see him as better than that. But my expectations for Lewis are simple. Win your 8th championship in your first year. That's it. That's all I'm asking for. And it's not that much, really, when you think about it.
Here's a question. Going back to Perez for 1 second, right? You're his manager again. Are you talking to Audi?
Oh my God. Yes, I am. If he's going to lose his seat, I'm talking to anybody who's willing to take him for another year. Yeah, absolutely. I think
Perez
idea.
Would do well at Audi.
Kick Sauber, Audi, Alfa Romeo, whatever they're called, is so garbage this year. I have no idea. They truly are the Manchester United right now. Even though they were never on top, really. But they're just so bad that I really don't know what to make of them or what drivers they're going to take on. Like, it's pretty telling to me that you have all these drivers who could get a seat there, like Carlos Sainz, Daniel Ricciardo, like Perez. There's so many people who could potentially move there, and they're still looking at rookies because nobody wants to go there. Because why would you want to go there? It would be like Lawson, Colapinto. These guys don't have seats next year, and nobody's talking about Lawson to Sauber. Nobody wants that because it's just so bad. Like Valtteri Bottas is considering retiring instead of staying on.
Yeah. You mentioned Lawson there. How was his weekend?
Oh my God! See, I see a lot of Lawson in myself. And I definitely would have been.
That's not a good thing.
Well, I definitely would have been the guy flipping off the seasoned veteran driver, in my second race ever, getting in trouble for it, and then calling you up at your 2 a.m. to complain about how I'm in trouble. And it's not even my fault, Arafat. It's not even my fault. All I did was flip him off. I didn't do anything wrong. And then,
I mean, Lawson kept getting angry. He, it takes two to tango. Yes, Perez crashed into him, but he crashed into Perez as well. And the entire thing he's been given is like, look, here's 6-7 races, whatever it is. Be better than Yuki. And the first question you should have, if someone has given you that challenge, is how good is Yuki? Like, if I need to be better than him, how good is he? What's the problem with Yuki? Why is Yuki not in the Red Bull? Well, they've said before, his temperament, his anger. He goes hot and cold when he's angry. He doesn't drive as well as he should. obviously we've all heard on the radio the shouting, the swearing, but it's not just that. If he gets agitated and frustrated in the car, his consistency and performance drops.
Mm-hmm.
So like we need a cool head in that car, right? They basically need Hulkenberg. But anyway, that's his entire job. His entire job is just be a cool head, chill out, just get the car to the end of the race cleanly. And in the last week, he's had a fight with Colapinto. Did you see the radio message? Colapinto being like, he's not getting out the way of the McLaren or whatever.
No, I didn't see
then
that.
Carlos Sainz having a go about Lawson.
I saw that.
He had a fight with Fernando Alonso, and now he's having a fight with Perez. Like, what is he doing?
You know how before
what is
we
this
recorded,
insanity?
Before we recorded, you said that like there are certain people who are so good, certain teams that win so much that everybody has a rivalry with them. This is the opposite, where it's not somebody who's so good, but he has a rivalry with everyone.
Yes. I don't understand what he's doing. I get it, to an extent. You probably have to be a little bit unhinged to be a Formula One driver. But to go around and get in a fight, if it was Fernando Alonso right now, getting into a fight with everybody, I'd be like, yeah, fine, he's earned it. Verstappen, clearly getting into a fight with everybody. But he's earned his right to be there, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
What is Lawson doing?
Yeah.
How is this helping him
I know,
get the
it's
Red Bull
really
seat?
souring him on me, and I really liked him before, but this behavior is, I'm hoping he's just frustrated, or I'm hoping it goes away. You don't see it anymore from the next race.
This is your first, I know he raced a bit last year, but you've been given a Formula One drive that you probably didn't entirely expect.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you thought, okay, I'll be there next year, but you've been given an extra few races now.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing? It makes no sense.
I know, it's so rough, and he really did barely get it because it was really just a contract stipulation. Otherwise, Daniel Ricciardo would probably have stayed on. So I don't know. It
Where's
makes me
he from?
depressed.
New Zealand?
Yeah.
Maybe he's jet lagged. Maybe he's just confused by the time and he's cranky.
I hope so.
And he needs a nap.
And maybe he was jet lagged last week in Austin. It's funny.
Did
though,
you see?
Alonso...
Did you see? He apologized and he was like, "Oh, I'm really disappointed in myself." Blah blah blah. And it's like, just don't do it.
Let me tell you this, okay? Drivers that give other drivers the finger are the worst breed of drivers. I haven't been that angry and disappointed since I saw George Russell do it in 2021.
I'm Googling to see if there's a list. F1 drivers, there's just lots of stuff about Liam Lawson apologizing.
Are you looking at drivers who've given the other driver a finger?
Yeah.
There's been fights too, right? There's videos of people fighting in the pit lane. Verstappen famously with Ocon pushing him.
Yeah.
So it's the same energy. Yeah. I don't actually mean that it's the absolute worst. I was gassing it a little bit, but
No, but it just shows a lack of control.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You wouldn't see. Yeah. I was gonna say you wouldn't see Lewis do that, but he was pretty fiery when he was younger too, but not to that extent.
Yeah.
He had to be better. He had to be more controlled. Yeah, it's
disappointing.
Alonso
does the hand wave, doesn't he? Alonso's like, what is that? Do you know what I like that Alonso does? At the end of the race sometimes, if someone does something, Alonso drives past them and he does this.
Well, so initially...
For people that are listening, he wags his fingers if he's going, no.
So initially I thought that Lawson was giving the peace sign. That's what I thought because that's kind of what it looked like because it's to the side. And I thought, see, that's funny because you passed Perez, you got into this whole fight, and right at the end, it's like you're giving him the peace sign. It's ironic, right? Or it's like you're teasing him.
Yeah.
But it was actually the finger, which is what are you thinking, bro? I don't know. You know what, though? This happens in sports all the time. I know in American football and in fake European football, people fight, the players, they get into brawls all the time, right? There's, pushing and shoving, and there's, red cards go out. So this is just, I guess, one of those things. And yes, we're disappointed in him, but it's not very uncommon in sports. Yeah.
No, it's not uncommon. And this is the thing. If he'd done it, at this point in time next year, I'd have been like, whatever, he's really, really angry. But he knows he's in an audition phase right now.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? He's right now auditioning for the Red Bull seat. And I think that should put an extra level of pressure on you to perform better. That's my problem.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah. What did you make of the Mercedes' fighting?
So, Lewis was on the new car situation.
Yeah.
George had gone back to an old spec because he crashed so much, he destroyed all the new parts.
Also, Lewis's floor was broken by Kimi Antonelli. He broke the floor.
But even then, I think Lewis was able to replace that, no?
Oh, I don't know. I just heard this on
Yeah, I
Twitter.
think they did replace that. So that's the thing. So Lewis, with the new spec of car and the DRS Open, was struggling to get past George. So then you're like, what is happening here? And I think, this is my theory, who knows? I might be totally wrong. My theory is the whole point of the Mercedes upgrades, because the Mercedes seems to have a very, very narrow operating window. And the right temperature and the right level of moisture in the air, the wind direction has to be totally perfect. There have to be the correct number of crows flying past the track. It's very, very fast.
Yeah.
But the second one of those things changes, the car is super slow again, right?
Yeah.
So I think they were trying to do something to be like, right, let's build in a bit more consistency so we can get this ride height thing sorted. And the point of the upgrade is to have a more drivable car across a variety of conditions, but ultimate pace is lost. So I think they're literally downgrading the car in some ways, and I think Lewis was just like stuck with downgrades.
Remember in like 2016, 17, 18, not so much 19, but in those years Ferrari would bring upgrades and they would just end up being downgrades, and the idea you had was that they were just trying so hard to bring performance in their fight against Mercedes that they would just go the wrong way. And I think for some reason Mercedes is so desperate to increase their performance. And we talked about this last week. We're like, why are they so desperate to do this? They're not going to be higher than P4 in the championship. Their drivers are not going to get higher. There's no reason for them to get this desperate to bring upgrades and try to make it work. But I think that they
slower,
just are.
but more meaningful.
Yeah, exactly. And I think they brought this upgrade package. They really rushed it. They didn't have enough parts. And it's just a really crappy upgrade package. And I think Lewis was struggling, and you could see the onboards where the car is just like not normal.
The back was sliding everywhere around that stadium section. The amount of oversteer he was getting, and one point when he was trying to overtake George, and his hands just went the complete other way, and I was like, he's like drifting now. Lewis is basically drifting around the racetrack.
But I will say
this car?
I know it's awful. It's literally
the same problem they both had in Texas. They both lost the rear end and went into the wall. Lewis was struggling to keep the rear end under control here.
Yeah. And so I actually think it was better that George went on the older spec. And at first,
at first,
Crofty was like, this spec goes all the way back to Miami. And I was like, what? That is so far ago. It can't be true. But it's not. It's Silverstone. He got corrected later. That spec went back to Silverstone. But I was like, Miami is the beginning of the season.
I knew it was Silverstone, but I was like, oh, maybe they just had the exact same from Miami all the way through to Silverstone.
But I will say this. It was very I can't think of the word. Fun. That's not the right word. It was really fun to watch Lewis build his overtake lap by lap, watch George figure out his strengths, figure out where he was weak, charge the battery in the appropriate way, build the attack, and then finally get him. I mean, that was fun. I thought for sure Lewis would give up after a couple laps, and I thought he's going to try to take care of his tires. It's over, but he kept at it, and he really got him.
Do you know what this overtake was? It was like season 9 of The Office, where it's kind of a bit weaker than before, but actually, because the ending was so good, it makes up, and you're like, oh yes, actually that was all very good. The only reason we enjoyed it was because in the end, Lewis got ahead of it. If Lewis finished that race behind, we would have been like, oh, great racing, but this is How I Met Your Mother. This is something that's been destroyed in its last moments. That's what would... So it's only good because of the conclusion.
Yes. Ferrari wins the race. They get almost a 1-2, a 1-3. I don't know. They don't have any upgrades. What does this say for next year? This is our team.
They might have some upgrades. I don't know. I've not been paying attention to what Fred Vasseur is doing, but I think he knows what he's doing.
Let's hope that's good. We have another race this weekend. It's Brazil. Let's hope it goes better than this last one went. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm going to look up what time Brazil is on in the UK.
It's going to be something similar because I think it's the same time zone.
Red Bull hint at Verstappen Brazil grid penalty for engine change.
Yeah, that's right. I've heard about that too. So it's 12 o'clock America time. So for you, it'll be...
It's 5 p.m. UK time.
Yeah, that's fine. You can watch that. You'll be good. So who wins it?
You explain to the children that I want to watch the TV.
Yeah, I will. Put me on the phone. How come you never video call me with your children? I want to yell at them sometimes. I enjoy
Okay, we'll do it
yelling at
tomorrow.
kids. I'm very Liam Lawson. I enjoy yelling at kids.
We'll do it tomorrow. They're asleep right now. But that's the thing. This race was on at 8 p.m. They go to bed at 7:30. So I just sat here like silence watching the race. It was lovely.
Nice. Who do you think wins it?
I'm going to go with Norris.
Lewis Hamilton, LH. Speaking of Lewis Hamilton, just
ambitious.
before we close out the episode, I went ahead and did a thing. I bought this.
Oh, how
Plus
exciting.
44. I bought it on a whim.
That's how you would phone me. Plus 44.
Yes. Plus 44. Look, it says, "Compost me, please. I'm made of corn." Which is really nice because this is like plastic. It's not paper. So he's done, it's like, plastic free. We're trying to all go plastic free. So
It's
cool.
so American. There's nothing you people won't make out of corn.
Plastic out of corn. But I bought this on a whim because I wanted to. I've been trying to get these for a while, but they sell out quite quickly, and they're very expensive. But he now has a distribution center in California, so that makes it easier for me to buy it. And I went ahead and I got this shirt once I took it out of the package, and now it's in this package. Do a proper. This is gonna go on
That made of corn
guys.
as well?
Huh?
Is that made of corn as well?
This is it's like a rice sack. It's like not plastic exactly. It's what I get rice in. I don't know. Paper? Oh, wow. The material is so thick. It's so thick. Here's what it is. It says Austin in the front. Austin plus 44. And then the back says Still We Rise. Can you see it?
That's so cool.
And it's really premium cotton. I'm actually quite surprised. It's very premium cotton. It's like, it's really good. And the colors, this is not screen printed. This is like properly like sewn on. This design, it comes off of the cotton. It's sewn on, which is really nice. And same on the back. The colors are really nice and bright. This is super fun. I'm gonna take a picture of myself wearing this and post it onto the internet, and hopefully Lewis Hamilton will notice. And the bottom corner of it says plus 44. Hey.
Excellent.
Hey,
Congratulations
Lewis.
on the top. Hi.
Yes. All right, guys. Thank you so much. We will see you all after Brazil.